I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello from the sunny St Ives in Cornwall. So I feel very fortunate this week because I'm recording this in a gorgeous little cottage down in St Ives, right at the bottom of Cornwall. And I'm here with my daughter, and there are other friends here down in Cornwall as well, which is just brilliant. But we've left all the boys behind. So my two boys and my husband, because my husband couldn't get the time off work and both my boys are in the middle of exams. So there's a bit of a revision camp going on at home. So I'm very happy to be here. We've been in the sea every day on our boogie boards. We've been watching the most incredible sunsets at night, eating lots of gorgeous food. So it really has been wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. So I hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Karen Newby, all about the power of food at perimenopause. If you haven't had a chance to listen, I really recommend that episode. There is so much good, juicy information in there about the sorts of foods which are really going to help you through symptoms at perimenopause. Anyway, on to this week's episode. This week, I talked to Emma Reynolds. Now, Emma is an MBSR teacher. That stands for Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. And she really is an expert in all things meditation and mindfulness, and has so many helpful tips throughout this episode of what you can do to become more mindful and how to start a meditation practice, because I know firsthand how important it's been for me to use mindfulness and meditation as a tool to help me through my own perimenopause, and really just to get more present, enjoy every single day rather than waiting to live, actually living in the moment. And it also really helps with stress and anxiety and low mood, all common symptoms of perimenopause. Emma is a trained actress and voice artist and ran her own business for quite a number of years. But it wasn't until she was 41 and just after she had her first child that she became really overwhelmed with life and found that meditation and mindfulness, which she hadn't really been into before, really helped. And she's gone on now to train and become a teacher in MBSR as well. So I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. Let me know what your thoughts. I always love to hear them. So without further ado, here is the wonderful Emma Reynolds. Hi Emma, how are you? Lovely to see you today.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, really great to have you. So Emma, I thought a really good place to start today would be to find out a little bit about how you got into mindfulness. Is it something that you've always done, or is it something you've come to more recently in your life?
Okay, so if somebody had invited me to sit down and meditate 9 years ago, they'd have been battered away by me. I'd have been like, I'm not doing any of that nonsense. I'm quite late to the game in a way. I'm now 49, and when I had my first and only son at 41, I was very overwhelmed by the experience. Okay, so I had run my own company. I had 16 employees, and I'd been free and easy for 40 years of my life and really enjoyed that freedom. And suddenly I had a baby and I had this huge responsibility and I had no sleep. And I still had 16 employees that could, email me or WhatsApp me at any moment to tell me what the problem was. And I just was totally overwhelmed. I'd always had a very busy mind, and that busy mind had served me. I was creative. I ran a theatre company. I was writing and directing and producing. So when it was whirring at top speed and sent in the right direction, it was really useful. And unfortunately, what I didn't have was the off switch. So it would also whir away being very creative about all the negative things that could potentially happen. And I could quite easily terrify myself to the point of not being able to sleep at night, having a stiff neck, bad shoulder, all the rest of it, because my mind was just, whizzing away with ideas of all the terrible things that could happen. And just by pure chance, somebody put on Facebook, well, is it pure chance? Is anything pure chance? But somebody put something on Facebook about an app where you could meditate, and it was supposed to help lower stress and anxiety. And I thought, you know what, at this point, I will give anything a go. So I downloaded the app and I sat for 10 minutes every day, sort of meditating, sort of falling asleep, because I was a new mum and I was really super tired. But I did stick with it. And after about 6 months, I really realized that really something was starting to change, and that I was just a little less stressed, a little less anxious, a little less frustrated with life, a little less judgmental about other people and myself. And I just started to become fascinated by this. Like, what's going on here? How can 10 minutes every day be having a significant change in my outlook and also my in-look, how I was dealing with myself and my emotions and my thoughts, and how I was dealing with the world outside. And that sort of took me on a journey, really, and I became interested in meditation. From there, I found out about MBSR, which is Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. And I went and did a course, and I didn't even think I was going to become a teacher at that point. I was just like really interested in how meditation affects neural circuitry, because we can now sit down and look at how meditation actually changes the way that our brain is connected, and that has an effect on our thoughts, on our emotions, on our behaviors, and therefore on our actions in the world. So this whole world sort of opened up in front of me, which is a wide kaleidoscope. It's everything from spirituality on one side all the way through to neuroscience on the other, and everything in between. And that was really the beginning of it. I then trained to become an MBSR teacher, and I've been teaching in lots of different realms. I mean, I work with perimenopausal women. I work with teachers in education. I've just written a course for mindfulness for primary students. I work in the corporate world. Basically, I realized, everyone has got a worried, rambling mind from time to time, and we could all do with a little bit of calming down and having really practical tools to be able to calm ourselves down. And of course, when we're in perimenopause, one of the top symptoms, apart from hot flashes, which everyone knows about, is anxiety and stress. And it's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't know that you also work with teachers, because having been a primary school teacher myself and having done the juggle of kids at school, my own kids, perimenopause, that is probably one of the most stressful periods of my life. And I think for so many teachers, so it's really, really interesting. So, Emma, I wonder, I thought maybe just to start us off on this podcast, maybe we could just get a little flavour of a very quick and easy mindfulness practice to just get us all in the mood. And if anybody listening is feeling particularly stressed or anxious at the moment, it might just help them to calm down and then to enjoy the rest of the podcast. How would
Absolutely.
that be? Okay?
Just one little thing: don't do this if you're driving.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
or using heavy machinery. Okay, so let's just take a moment you can be standing, you can be sitting, but I just invite you to make sure that your spine is erect and your head is just sitting nicely on top of your spine. Allow your shoulder blades to drop down and back. Maybe close your eyes or lower your gaze. And just become aware of the fact that you are breathing. So maybe following the breath all the way in and all the way out. And you may like to just ask yourself, how am I right now? And just see what bubbles up. Maybe a little busy in the mind, a bit worried, stressed. Maybe the body is tired, all tense. You may just check in with a few sort of hot spots in the body, maybe allowing the jaw to just soften. Like I say, shoulder blades drop back. Allowing the body to just slowly release anything that doesn't need to be working right now. Checking in with the chest area, the stomach. And then maybe placing a hand on the belly just for one moment. So just on the belly button. And just on the next breath, see if you can allow the breath to move all the way down into that hand. So breathing in through the nostrils. And breathing out slowly through the mouth or the nose. And again, breathing in. Maybe you can feel the belly move a little bit. Breathing out. Belly moves back in. And just one more time. Breathing in. Breathing out. And just letting go of that and just noticing again how you feel. Has that changed in any way for you? You feel maybe a little bit more relaxed, a bit more centered, a little bit more present. And then just taking a long, slow, deep breath in and just having a little stretch, just whatever the body needs. And then gently opening the eyes.
Oh, it's so nice to do, isn't it? And it's so quick and so easy. And yet, once you just take those couple of minutes just to get really centered and find an element of sort of ease and peace, it just can totally transform the next direction that you take within your day. And one thing I just want to bring up, because when I was doing that, just as you were speaking us through it, which was so lovely, my mind was darting around, because that's what our minds do, isn't it? They never just can focus on one thing at any one time. Well, they can maybe eventually, but it takes so much practice to do that. Our minds are busy, and that is what they do. But I think so many people really worry that they're not doing it right because their mind is going off in all directions. So Emma, what do you say to those people? Because there is no right or wrong way, is there?
No, and it's not like you get rid of thoughts. They may slow down, but it's all about aim. Okay, so a lot of people have the wrong idea that the aim of meditation is to have a blank mind, and therefore if they don't have a blank mind and don't have thoughts, therefore they're doing it wrong. Okay, and I want to really dispel that myth. The reality is you sit down and you, for example, focus on a main focus of attention, like your breath, like we just did, and then you notice, oh, my mind is thinking about that email or what happened yesterday. And in that moment that you notice, so that moment of awareness, you simply acknowledge that there is a thought happening. And that maybe instead of doing what you normally do, which is then run with that thought and get lost in the thought, you just go, oh, hello, thought. Email, interesting. Now back to the breath. And really, that's what we're practicing. So we actually need the thoughts, because we need a point of focus, which is the breath. And then when the thoughts come, we practice going, I notice I've wandered off and I'm coming back, and I come back. And if you did that literally 50 times during a minute and a half, instead of seeing that as a negative that you failed, it's actually a huge positive, because 50 times you've recognized that your mind has wandered off and you've brought yourself back. You've made that choice like 50 times over and over. And the more times you make that choice, guess what? The better you get at it. So mindfulness in one way, or meditation, you could see it as like a mind gym, right? If you go to the gym and there's no weights to pick up, you haven't got anything to work with, right? You're not going to actually work those muscles and get them any bigger. So thoughts and emotions are sort of the same. It's like we turn up with our meditation, we try to focus on the breath, and when our mind wanders off, we go, oh yeah, there's that weight that I'm picking up, and I'm just going to let it go back down again until I pick it up again. And can you see the analogy? Like, you're eventually going to grow your mindfulness muscle. And the thing is that why is this of any benefit to us? Because, we're not interested in becoming brilliant meditators. What we want to hopefully achieve in our lives is that we start to get good at focusing on what we want to focus on. Because you're absolutely right. The mind, if left alone, untrained, will wander around all over the place. So my another analogy is it's like an untrained puppy. Okay. So when you get your puppy dog and you want it to sit and stay, does it sit and stay? No. It looks at you lovingly and then wanders off all over the place, bringing you back things that you don't want. So the analogy is, you start worrying about the future and all the things that are going to happen, or you obsess about the past and how things should have gone differently so that this present moment would be better. Or we're even in a judgmental state around what's happening with us right in this moment. All of which is very stressful, right? Wouldn't it be lovely to be able to bring that puppy dog mind back to the present moment, to what you're actually doing? Because often what we're doing in the present moment isn't unpleasant. It's just quite relatively neutral. We're just walking down the street. We're just driving in our car. We're just eating our dinner. We're just, going for a walk in nature. And so to be able to train the mind to be where the body is really, really key to our health and well-being, really. Yeah, because we can have all these great ideas of like, I'm really stressed, but at the weekend I'll go for a walk in nature. And then guess what? You take that busy mind with you on the walk. So you don't see the leaves and the trees and smell the beautiful smells. You're just completely up in your head, worrying about that thing that somebody said at work, or worrying about what's going to happen in the future with X, Y, and Z. So we never really get to benefit the stress busting effects of being in nature, because we're not in nature. Mentally, we are still at the office or in some conversation from last year or whatever.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. Yeah, it is a practice, and I think people forget this. It's not something you do once and then it's you fix it. It's a practice, and it's something which we can do every single day. And it's all about that awareness, isn't it? It's that just being aware of being aware, and that really helps us to feel present and enjoy every day. And I think so many of us we have goals in the future, and it's like, I'll do that when that thing happens. And actually, I think particularly when you get to midlife, but any age this is relevant, but I think particularly when you get to midlife, you really start to realize that we have to start living right now. We've got to stop waiting for when this thing happens, when I lose that weight, when I'm doing this. Actually, it's about living now. And I've noticed through my own meditation practice that it has just been such a game changer in just enjoying the smallest things. I love things like just even folding up washing, which I used to find the biggest chore. If you can actually feel those textures of the different materials between your fingers and just be very mindful of what you're doing, it actually turns it into actually quite a pleasant experience, which sounds completely bonkers, I know, but it's true, isn't it?
You've hit upon it, because then, when I teach people MBSR, part of the practice is, okay, it's great to sit and meditate for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, but what about when you're standing in the supermarket and you're getting really, fed up and angry because it's all taking too long and you're time pressured, and you can feel, and you think, oh God, now a hot flush is going to come up because I can feel all this negative energy inside of me. That's when it's useful. It's like, I see what I'm doing. I've got an awareness that my mind is running on and being very judgmental. Can I bring myself back to something that's not in the head? So the head is conceptual, okay? It's all thoughts and energy that's going on there. Can I bring it back into the senses? So when you were talking about like clothes, folding the bedding, it's because it's a sensory experience. So, and that is deeply pleasant, standing and smelling something pleasant, feeling something pleasant, like people can't get to sleep at night. Rather than worrying in the head about I can't get to sleep, what about changing your focus into, can I feel how comfortable this bed is? Can I smell the warm duvet? Can I stop and just lie in bed and rest, listening to the sounds around me, and move my stress away from, and my attention on the stress of trying to get to sleep, and bring it into something that is not really trying to get anywhere. So mindfulness is about a goalless activity, which in our society is just so left field, because we've always been trained to get somewhere, right? Go to school, get the grades, get the house, get the car, get the partner, get the kids, get. And yet here we are, having achieved all of those things to a certain extent, and yet the mind is never happy, because it's always in the future projected, like you say, next thing, when I go on that holiday, when I lose that weight, when I find X, Y, and Z, I will be happy. And therefore, we suspend the ability to be happy into some other moment. And so the other thing with mindfulness is bringing yourself back to the present moment. And so we can have a more neutral experience. I'm just lying in bed under a duvet and I'm just going to rest there. Or we can actually then bring in gratitude practices and, to be appreciative of our experience. How lucky I am to have a bed. How lucky I am to feel warm right now. Because a lot of our lives, we really miss what's around us all the time, all the good stuff. We just take it as read. There's water in our tap. There's electricity when I turn the light on. My kids are relatively healthy, and so am I. And there's a good reason for this. It's not because we're ungrateful beings. It's because that from a survival point of view, we don't need to acknowledge the good stuff. We are programmed, it's wired into our brains to look for the bad stuff so that we can fix it. Okay. And this is like way back. This is sort of, cavemen and women time. Okay. So if you're sitting there outside your cave, it's not that useful from your survival point of view to be sitting there going, my life is so wonderful, and look at that beautiful sunset, and have you noticed that flower? The mind is going, is that a tiger I heard over there? Or what are we going to do about the food next week? Or it's planning, it's organizing. And to a certain extent, that's useful. But when it's on a scale that's suitable, and what's happened quite often with our minds is that we get good at what we practice. So if we got into a little cycle of worrying about the future, guess what? That becomes our natural default. And that beast just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we get into a place where we're constantly trying to control every outcome so that we can be happy. And yet, by trying to control that very outcome, we become deeply unhappy because we're constantly stressed. So we're in this crazy loop system that we've got going. But because we have awareness, we are aware of our own consciousness. We can become aware of, I'm getting anxious now, I'm getting angry now, I'm getting stressed now. And with tools, which really is what mindfulness brings, is here's a tool that you can do right now. Notice that your belly has started to kind of, crease up with worry, and stop and do something like we just did, pause, close your eyes, take some breaths. Because we're coming to the present moment, we're stepping out of the anxious thinking, and focusing on things like the breath is really, really good for regulating our nervous system. So when we're stressed, we go into fight and flight mechanism, and it's all to do with adrenaline and cortisol. And so adrenaline and cortisol is making us go, oh, I've got to do something, I've got to fight, I've got to run, I've got to act in some way. And yet often when we're stressed, we don't need to run away from a tiger, right? We've just got an email in front of us, or a WhatsApp message, or someone's taking too long in the supermarket, or whatever. So to be able to flip ourselves out of one hormonal state and into another, so when we calm down, we bring out oxytocin instead, that allows us to feel more calm, more connected, more soothed, and more present in our existence. So we have a choice. This is the really key thing. We have choice.
Yeah, we can be in control, and that, I think, when we're at perimenopause, we lose sight of sometimes, that everything feels out of control. But when we remember we have a choice, it actually is so empowering. You talk about mindfulness and meditation. So I suppose just to let everyone know the difference between mindfulness and meditation, because they're so intrinsically linked, but they are a bit different, aren't they?
I mean, so meditation can be perceived as making a choice to sit down and close your eyes and concentrate on a fixed point. But that would also negate the fact that you can also meditate not sitting down and closing your eyes. You can do mindful walking, for example. So, you can take yourself out in nature, and just for 10 steps, you just choose to notice your feet on the floor, walk a little bit slower. That in itself is also a meditation, because you are making a conscious choice to step out of busy mind, busy body, wanting to get somewhere, aims and objectives, and into slowing everything right down and becoming very focused. But you could also do that drinking your tea, eating your lunch. We talk about mindful eating. It's that gentleness of slowing down and becoming aware and becoming mindful. So this is why we're kind of linked, because what is mindfulness? Another word for mindfulness is awareness, is consciousness, is being here now. Okay, so they're muddled together because they are muddled together, And if you live a mindful life, you could also say, to a certain extent, you live a meditative life, because you are aiming to be, as much as you can, be present in all of your moments. And so for people who often say to me, I've got time to meditate, what do you mean, like 20 minutes? I can't even, I've got no time for that. I say, well, you always are breathing. Right, you're always walking, you're always eating to a certain extent. So what about in those moments? You make those your meditations. You choose, that time when you wake up in the morning till, get out of bed and go to the bathroom. What about you make that the choice to be your meditative walk? And so you notice your busy mind, and you notice how the busy mind is driving an emotional state. So I've woken up this morning, I'm worrying about work, and I'm noticing that is something that I would call anxiety. And that anxiety is, and let me explore this, where is it in the body? So we take ourselves away from the mind. Here it is, it's sitting in my chest. Hello, anxiety. I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm just aware you're here. I'm looking after you. I'm, like I'm doing right now, placing a hand on my chest. So I'm literally touching myself. But now I'm going to make a choice to move. I'm not getting rid of anxiety. I'm just changing my focus to, can I feel my feet on the floor right now? What would it be like to see if I could count all my steps to the bathroom whilst I'm also breathing? And just to can you see how you're refocusing the mind away? And little by little, anxiety quite often then just slips away, because the very thing that's fueling it, which is the thoughts, they're not given any energy anymore. So emotions, like an emotional state, like, feeling anxious, feeling stressed, if you think of it like a fire, if you want to keep that fire going, you've got to constantly fuel it. And how we fuel any emotion is with our thoughts. I've got angry about this situation. It's unfair. He should have done this. I should have done that. All those thoughts keep that fire burning. And then we just got a massive, and it can go out for a bit, and then we go and tell somebody about it, and then we ignite the fire again, and we even ignite the fire in someone else. We can't believe this is happening, and it's very polluting. So how do we let a fire go out? By literally not fueling it anymore. So not giving it any energy, just going, I'm aware that it's here, but I'm choosing to move into something else. And in a way, we can, especially as mothers, we can really relate to that with our children. And so we're parenting ourselves. If you have a child who's really upset about something, you give it a certain amount of energy. Are you all right? Tell me about it. What's happening? Or you're feeling scared, for example. How did that feel? Yeah, you feel a bit shaky, right? Yeah. We look after the child, but we don't stay there focusing on it and going, yeah, I really imagine you're so scared, because that must be all, you're just going to keep the thing going, right? At some point you go, right, should we go and get a glass of water? Just change the attention, and slowly but slowly that thing has gone away. So we're not ignoring our emotional states, but we're not also luxuriating in them and keeping them going. We're just acknowledging that they're here, and then moving on into something else that's maybe a bit more, at least neutral, and possibly even positive.
Yeah.
Let's go and look in the garden, and let's just go and actively choose to find one thing that brings us joy in this moment.
Yeah.
So to flip, I know you were talking about like finding the positive side of perimenopause. I would flip the whole idea that perimenopause is this awful, terrible, devastating thing that happens to us in our 40s, because that's the story we tell ourselves. It's the story other people have told us, da, 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 da. And instead explore it as an opportunity to really get close to yourself, to drop habits that are really not serving you. Like your body is literally telling you, look, you just can't drink like this, smoke like this, eat like this, not exercise like this anymore. You've got to start looking after me. I'm not 20 anymore. And if you want me to function for the next 30, 40 years, then you need to start looking after me. So that's on the body side. On the mental side, it's also like, wake up. You've been run by these thoughts for so long. And I mean the small thoughts about worrying about work, the much bigger thoughts, the stresses that you've had maybe since childhood, trauma, all of that stuff is all going to start rising up. And people can have two choices. It's there anyway. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to try and suppress it? Which, good luck, because whatever you resist persists. So it'll just keep popping back up. Or are you finally going to sit down and open up this box and actually discover that maybe this is like a really amazing gift, if dealt with in the right way, that, you know what, I have been run by stress and anxiety for most of my life, or fear, or judgment. And maybe this is an opportunity to turn around and look at it. And when you turn around and you look at it, and you look with care and with kindness, or it actually starts to dissipate. You start to realize all of those fears and concerns that I've had maybe all my life have only ever been a thought. And I've actually created my own reality out of these thoughts all the time, because I constantly, and this is the other thing we constantly have a conspiratory bias. So we're constantly looking outside for an experience we believe about ourselves. So just very quickly, for example, if you imagine, you're not very important, no one really cared about you as a kid, people find you boring, you self-isolate to a certain extent because you just don't feel connected to other people. And then you go to a party one day, you start talking to someone, and before you know it, they've lost eye contact with you, they're looking behind you, and you go, there it is again, I'm so boring, no one's interested in me, I don't know why I go to parties, and that's my life. It seems so clear, that thought. There's a belief inside of you that's been running for the whole of your life, and there it is again. But if you question that thought, which is what we're doing in mindfulness, question those thoughts and go, is that true? Is that completely 100% true? Can we know that we have bored that person so much that they are now not interested in it? Or are there other possibilities? Is there a possibility that that person is really obsessed with something that's going to happen later on, and they're just really worried about it? Is it possible that this is just what they do with everybody? So you start to open up other possibilities and realize that maybe all your truths about yourself, those negative ones, are not necessarily true. And this is like you start to shed layers of stress, because you start to become more open in experiences, less knowing, ironically. I don't know how this is going to go, but let me be open to the experience, rather than going, it's going to go terribly, it's all going to be horrible, no one's going to like me or the situation. Because having worked with a lot of people, I can tell you, most people on this planet are walking around with the same insecurities. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I will never achieve X, Y, and Z. And it's simply not true. It's a programming in our minds through our thought patterns that unquestioned run our lives. So it's an opportunity to just step into some freedom around those problems, those issues.
And most of those beliefs were programmed into us often below the age of 7, and they were there for a reason at the time. It was what we made them mean. But actually now they do not serve us in any way whatsoever. And it is, and actually you do see a lot of people as they get older, that's why they start not caring so much, because they realise that actually I don't need that to hold on to that belief anymore, but it's just not true. And it's so true. Our thoughts are what kind of fuel our beliefs. And but yet our beliefs are kind of what fuel our thoughts, and then our thoughts become feelings, and then how we feel is how we behave. So if we can change those thoughts, if we can really cut those thoughts off at source and have a better thought, have a better feeling thought, or just change the direction, it can change so much. So I just loved everything you just said there, Emma. It's really
and what
brilliant.
the invitation here therefore is to step into real deep self-compassion, self-love, because many people on this planet, again, do not even understand that as a concept. I do a little activity with people. I say, what's compassion? What would be compassion action with a friend who's sad? Oh, well, I'd listen to them. I'd give them a hug. I'd be with them. I'd maybe suggest things. And, you'd be like, would you be like judgmental of them? No, I'd be really kind and I'd really want to be there for them. And I go, okay, so what's self-compassion? And then some people would just sit there and go, I don't know. And I go, well, it would be to do the same thing to yourself, right? If you're feeling stressed about a situation, that you would listen to yourself, that you would even give yourself a hug. I mean, you can literally give yourself a hug and get the oxytocin flowing. You'd be deeply caring towards yourself. And yet it's like we just didn't get that message somewhere. It was in an email that we missed about what about being kind to yourself. And so, with perimenopause, golly, if there was ever a time to be kind to yourself, it's when your hormones are flying about all over the place, your body is changing, you're having this enormous experience in your life. You can really embrace it as an opportunity to befriend yourself in that moment. So is it a terrible thing, or is it an amazing opportunity to really wake up?
Yeah, it's such a good reframe. And sometimes it's imagining ourselves as our 7-year-old self, and just talk to ourselves as if we would to that 7-year-old, and just give ourselves that love and compassion. Some of those conversations which we can have in our head are just awful, and you wouldn't say some of those things to somebody else, so why would you say it to yourself? Just really to finish off with, just to really focus in on perimenopause, I suppose, a bit more, because Emma, we were having a little chat just before I pressed record, and you were saying, well, my perimenopause actually has been okay because of the tools I am using and implementing. So I'd love you just to kind of talk to that a little bit and tell everyone about that.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I don't really have many symptoms. I mean, at 45, it announced itself, and I was really unaware. I was so totally unaware. I had very long periods, and I ended up in a hospital, and they were saying, well, if this doesn't improve, we'll just have to, have surgery or something. And I was like, my God, surrounded by all these medical people, nobody went, hang on a minute, long, heavy periods, and you're how old? 45. Maybe that's something to do with, hormones. So that was really the only thing I've experienced. But I really genuinely believe that, perimenopausal symptoms are stressful. And having to be able to actually look after your stress levels is a real no-brainer, because it's good for your mind, but it's really good for your symptoms as well. And so I started to research this, and I started to thought, wonder if there's been any research on people doing something like a mindfulness course, MBSR course, 8 weeks, and lowering the effects of the symptoms. And there's actually quite a few studies that people say that the kind of bother of hot flashes went down 40%. People felt they just had more joy in life. They felt less anxious. They slept better. And I know that for myself. And I know that was the effect that it had for me pre-menopause, of just being able to allow myself to relax and be present. So there are amazing tools out there. I'm not saying that mindfulness is the only one. I think it's in combination with exercise, with good diet, but having the right mindset to even be able to take yourself to go and to eat better, to stop maybe smoking, it all starts up there with a thought. How do I want to be? How do I want to look after this amazingness that is me? And I wanted to just say one last thing. A lot of people go, oh, I don't know, because it feels so sort of egotistical, spending all this time on myself. And it's like, no, it's a win-win, because when you are your favorite self, let's call it that, how do you respond in the world? How are you with your children, with your partner, with the people that you work with, the person in the shop? You emanate something that is is peaceful, is joyful, is kind, is fun, is light, wouldn't you want to take that out into the world? Well, then do the work on yourself and you can be part of that ripple effect, basically. So
Yeah.
you get to win, everyone else gets to win.
Oh my goodness, this is the message, and this is, I think, the massive misconception. People think, oh well, I just don't have the time to work on myself, or it's selfish, it's taking me away from my kids, or I just don't have time from work. But actually, you're so right. It is the most important thing we can do at this stage is to look after ourselves, because the ripple effects are just huge, and everybody benefits. Everybody totally benefits, and it is fact that cortisol, stress hormones make menopause symptoms so much worse. There's loads of evidence for it. They really are so detrimental to so many systems in the body. It's just really a no-brainer that we should be, well, I hate to use that word should, but we try and invite more mindfulness, more meditation, along with obviously all the other things, all the other wellness tools which are going to help us, which again, everyone can pick and choose what they want to do because everyone is different and there is no right or wrong way. But I really feel that mindfulness or meditation in some form, however that works for you, even if it's just 2 minutes of once a day of bringing your awareness in, that's better than nothing. And actually what's amazing is once you start, it's very easy for it to continue because you start to really enjoy the benefits that it brings.
Absolutely. And I would say just one last little thing as well, like 10 minutes or something, or even 5 minutes in the morning is 5 minutes that somehow magically turns into a lot more time later on in your day. Because if you've got yourself set up at the beginning of the day in the right vibe, things move differently during the day. And you've just set yourself up. And so you kind of go, yeah, well, okay, I lost 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the beginning of my day, but somehow magically, I've got more time because I'm not spending time getting into arguments with people, obsessing about things, not being present. So I make mistakes. There's a whole bunch of things that go on that's sort of slightly magical around just taking that time out. And sometimes I say, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for everybody else. And sometimes people do it through that. I do it for my kids. I do it for my partner, my relationship.
Oh, 100%. I know that when I meditate, I am such a better parent, better partner. I mean, my kids, I've got 2 teenagers and 1 12-year-old in my house, and there are lots of moments where I really feel like screaming. I find another soggy towel on the floor, there's dirty bowls left in different rooms, and I want to scream and shout. But I really find when I practice meditation or mindfulness, I have that awareness. In my mind, I'm always thinking, well, what is that going to achieve? It's going to achieve nothing. And I'm able to keep really calm, and the whole situation doesn't escalate into something which doesn't need to. And it really, really works.
Yeah.
So Emma, my last question, which I always ask to all my guests, is because this is called the Positive Perimenopause Podcast, what would be one practical, actionable tip you could give the listeners to help them have a more positive perimenopause?
I honestly think if you could just bring something that is, really doable. Don't go like this, you listen to this and go, that's it, I'm going to meditate. If you can do it for 5 minutes, I'll do it for half an hour. And then you do it for one day and then you don't do it for the rest of the year. That's no good. It's got to be something that you can do. You don't leave the house without brushing your teeth, right? It's a no-brainer. You just do it. So I invite you to find a mindfulness practice that, like you say, could be 2 to 5 minutes that you do every single day, and give yourself a challenge to do it for maybe a month or something like that. And then just see, like, just for this month, I'm going to do 5 minutes every day. After that month, then make a choice whether you want to drop it or not. But practice is so key. So if you can find something that's short and easy to do and really you're going to stick to it, go for that and see how that might just change your life.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic advice. Emma, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you today. Thank you so much. Even your voice just is soothing and just makes me feel relaxed. It's been really brilliant. All your wealth of knowledge and experience has been just so useful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very, very much for inviting me on. It's been a real delight.
Oh, pleasure. So I really hope after that you feel a little bit more inspired to try a mindfulness or meditation practice yourself. I promise you, it really does help so much with stress and anxiety and makes such a difference. So if you want to get hold of Emma, I'll put all of her details in the show notes, but you can see her website, which is mbsr-mindfulness.com, or you can see her over on Instagram, which is MBSR_mindfulness. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate how busy you all are, and I really am so, so grateful for taking the time to listen along to this. And as always, any comments you may have, do feel free to come over to Instagram at Polly Warren Coaching, or you can leave me a message at info@pollywarren.com. And if you feel so inclined, if you to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, that would just be incredible, because it all really, really helps get this podcast out there. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my time here in Cornwall. And yeah, I will speak to you next week. Bye.